still this fear, I'm sure, for you.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Huge. I mean,
there's still fear for all of us.
Think about what a heart transplant actually is. Think about that for a minute. They take out your heart, the most vital of all organs. They take it out. They remove it.
Creepy.
And then for you to survive, someone else has to be dead.
Yeah.
Someone else has to be dead for you to live.
Which I don't think our little brains can even process that.
It can't. What makes my life worth saving and somebody else's life worth sacrificing?
Yeah.
That's
hard. Which is why part of the heart transplant process, they get you in touch with people that work with you on that stuff, right?
There's social worker. You have access to therapists.
Probably needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been put in contact with transplant survivors.
Oh, that's cool.
They lined me up with another woman who's very similar to my demographic.
Okay.
And so we talked to her. She was very gracious in telling us her story, which is helpful. It's helpful to hear other people's stories, which is why we're doing this.
This is Keely. We've met her in the North Carolina videos, and this is her new obsession. It's not planes anymore. It's garlic. Just kidding. Her name is Scarlett, the baby doll. Thank you. Nice feature. So my next question is, do you like the community of transplant survivors, or do you sometimes feel like, well, everybody has such a different experience, maybe I shouldn't look at like their experience?
For me personally, I like having the community of transplant survivors. Even the bad experiences are informative.
That's true. You like the community, you like being informed. Do you go by the approach of like knowledge is power?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I feel like when you have a major diagnosis that doesn't have a lot of information about it that's easily accessible, I'm sure you look for it in any place.
Yes, and I have come up short. There's a lot of clinical information on heart transplant, but there aren't a lot of survivor stories. I feel like the clinical information's great, but your doctor can give you all that information and probably should.
Hopefully you get information.
But the human experience, the survivor stories, that's where you get details like something that helped me was this, and a helpful tip is this. And those things are what pull you through. The medical side of things, the clinical side of things, that's kind of, you have to lay that on someone else. That's somebody else's burden. But the tips of like, find your favorite dry shampoo now because you're going to be using it a lot.
Those are the things that the doctor's not going to tell you. Yeah.
And then even more specifically as a woman, there are things women need to consider when having medical procedures done that men don't need to worry about. And so it's helpful to hear other people's experiences and say, this is a product that really helped with this issue. And I feel like with cardiac issues specifically, we don't have a lot of that for women.
Honestly, like when you hear of health problem or heart problems, I don't know why, but my brain automatically goes to men.
I think there's a misperception that cardiac disease kills more men than women, and it's not true. Cardiac disease is still the #1 killer of women.
No way.
It kills more women every year than all cancers combined. And yet when we think of women's health, we always think of breast cancer.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is breast cancer is like the first thing that's like brought awareness to, has money donated to, which isn't a bad thing.
It's a great thing.
It's a great thing, but there are all these other things going on that I feel like we just don't have the same awareness about.
Right. Establish a good relationship with your doctor, your primary caregiver. It is very important. I wish I had done that. I always kind of thought of, well, I'll go to my OBGYN and get my yearly exams, and then when I'm done with kids, I'll go in when I feel like I need to. just how I've treated my healthcare to this point.
I think that's how,
mistake.
honestly, majority of people do it.
Right.
You do the bare minimum, and
don't
usually,
do that.
because in your mind, you're like, these health problems don't happen to me. That's somebody else's story.
Right. I'm not old enough.
Yeah, until it happens to you. And then it's so real, it's too real.
So find your doctor. He's your person or she's your person. Get a good relationship with them. If you don't like the relationship you have with your healthcare provider, find a different person. But it's important. Okay.
Well, we mixed it up, poured it in. Oh, don't forget to spray the pan. And now it's going in the oven.
We'll check back in 40 minutes.
Question for you. So we kind of derailed. So once you felt like the doctor was kind of prepping you to be put on the heart transplant list. Once he officially came to you and said, okay, heart transplant list time. What was the process from there?
So I was in the hospital during that process. So I'd had the initial couple of tests. Then I did so many tests while I was in the hospital. It was hard to keep track of all of them. I had to remember the 25
vials of blood. I remember that.
All in one sitting.
Ugh, I don't think I could do it.
That was tough.
How did you not pass out? That's so much blood.
Well, I was laying down. So that helped. I was laying down. So that was the first big in the hospital, we're gonna do this. Then I had to have an echocardiogram. I've had a lot of those. That's an ultrasound of the heart. I had to have a full abdominal ultrasound just to check for any other underlying issues that needed to be treated. I had to have a chest x-ray, and interesting, that's to measure your chest cavity, where your heart needs to be, so they know what size of heart you actually need.
Interesting.
Yeah. I had to have a pulmonary function test, which is a whole slew of things where they want to measure how well your lungs do. It's nuanced. There's so much that goes into it that I can't even begin to understand. I had to have this weird test. I think it was a basal metabolic test where they came and put this spaceship type helmet over my head and then measured how much oxygen versus carbon monoxide.
Interesting.
Carbon
dioxide.
Forgive me.
I could be wrong.
I'm not a medical healthcare professional. Anyway, I had to sit there for 5 minutes and they measured the exchange of gas.
Interesting.
In my breathing. And I've never got any follow-up on that. I don't know what the results of that were. I had to have a right and left heart catheterization to measure the pressure in all the chambers of my heart.
Okay.
And then to look at the outside, look at the plumbing of my heart, make sure I didn't have blockages or anything that needed to be fixed as far as arterial health. I had to have a couple different blood gas straws, which is when they go into the artery of your wrist and do.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Blood gases. I had to, of course, have all my regular yearly things, mammogram, women's health checkup. They wanted me to have a colonoscopy, but because of my unstable heart rhythm, it would be dangerous to get me depleted of electrolytes. So they got that one waived. I didn't have to have that done, but anybody else would probably have to have that done.
So did they decide your status?
Priority status.
Did they determine that before the testing or from the testing? Is the testing what determines that, or does the doctor kind of just say?
I think the testing plus it's so they have the team of doctors at the hospital. A lot of this terminology escapes me, but they have their meeting every Tuesday. They take all the medical tests and everything, and they decide, okay, is this person right for transplant? Yes or no. They voted unanimously that I was right for transplant. I was healthy enough to receive a heart, healthy enough to recover from that big of a surgery, but sick enough to need a new heart. So that's heavy.
That is heavy.
But then there's a separate overseeing body called UNOS that they oversee all organ transplants.
I was I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, and they have to go to them and they review it and they decide, yes, we are listing this person at this status.
Okay, so it's kind of decided by multiple groups.
Yes.
There's checks and balances kind of.
Yes, very much.
Okay, so with the heart transplant list, there are 6 statuses?
Yes.
Well, technically 7.
Technically, there's more than that because even within like status 1, there's like levels that you can be at. Status 1 through 3, there's like A, B, with exception or things like that.
So you are currently a status 6.
Yes, which is the lowest priority actively listed. Now there's a status 7, which means you qualified for a heart transplant, but you're not actively waiting. So either you don't feel like you need to have a heart transplant at this time, your doctors don't feel you need one at this moment, but you've done the workup.
Okay. So if you were status 7, would you be able to just one day be like, okay, I'm ready and be listed? Is that kind of what that is for?
Potentially.
Okay.
Potentially you could go to your team and say, okay, I'm ready to be listed. And they could say, okay, you are ready to be listed. Let's move you to a status 6.
Okay.
A priority 6. So I'm a priority 6, which is the lowest priority of the active listed people.
Okay. Which is kind of hard because you're still on the list, so you still have to follow list rules, but you're not necessarily getting a heart immediately, but that's also good because you're not in the hospital.
Right.
So it's this weird life where you are kind of living, you're kind of just waiting.
Right.
Right?
Yes, it's a weird in between.
Yeah.
One of the most impactful rules is kind of a harsh way to say it, but
they
guidelines.
are. I mean, they're. I know it's hard to think that way because you don't want to feel like you're living by a set of rules,
or that you're going to be punished for not following their rules. No, this is a very wonderful opportunity you've been given to have a life-saving procedure done. Mm-hmm. So there's gratitude that goes into that.
But
so
I feel like they're rules.
Let's call it guidelines.
They can feel like rules, though. They can feel like it sometimes, and I think that's okay.
Especially when you're talking about the travel guideline.
Especially with you, because our family, we've traveled like so much. We love to get out.
Getaways. You cannot be more than 2 hours from the hospital, and you cannot be without cell phone coverage. So in the state of Utah, that's kind of
limiting.
It feels very limiting.
We don't even have like 2 hours out west we could go, or 2 hours really out east.
And
we have north
in cell phone coverage.
So we've got north and we've got south, and you are there. At least you can tell yourself that every day you're closer.
Theoretically, yes. My biggest issue with all of it is missing out on events.
Yeah.
Not being able to go to St. George to watch you run your first half marathon is breaking my heart.
It's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard. And the potential of missing other big things like graduations.
Yeah. So it's not easy, but it's good that we're in the process.
Right. I'll be very grateful for the miracle of a heart transplant.
It is a miracle. So much has to go right to receive it, even.
Right. It's a miracle that it's even a possibility. And we are
It's a miracle you're even on the list.
We are very privileged.
It's a miracle you're even here.
Right.
It's a miracle we're making brownies today.
Yeah. We are very privileged to be in the situation we are in and have the opportunities we have.
So this is life on the heart transplant list. I'd love to go more into depth on like each thing that's gone on and your emotions on each thing. There are time kind of constraints with videos like this, but I'm sure we'll be back and we'll bake more things or cook something up.
Baking on the transplant.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of want to document the process because there's not a lot of information out there. Not a ton of people get heart transplants.
Right.
I feel like it's not that rare because we're living it, but it is rare. So I think it'd be cool to kind of just see it all go down. Thanks for watching. Oh, I'll show you the brownies once they're done. Here's our beautiful brownies. Frosted half, left the other half. How do you think they turned out?
I think they look luscious. We haven't taste tested them yet.
Yeah, so we can't tell you if they're good or not.
I love how it turned out, like the crackle shiny like we wanted. Like the
you can tell it's good brownie top. There's definitely a difference between like a cakey brownie and like a really fudgy brownie. Okay, I have a feeling they're gonna taste good, but they are not coming out of here very well. They're a little bit messy. I'm going for
just go for
eating it with the hands. So I got one with frosting and not frosted. Not frosted first. I'll wait until you get a bite. Good. You're not in the video, by the way.
That was on purpose.
Oh.
They're
They're
a good mix of cakey and fudgy.
they're not too dense.
But they're not so gooey that you can't eat it with your fingers. I think the top is perfect.
Me too. It's not like too crackly where you can't even get it in your mouth without it falling off, but it's still there.
So I would say half and half sour cream and oil. It's a success.
It's a success. Stamp of approval from me. Stay tuned for more. Do you want to say bye?
Bye.